Welcome to another VGR here on Machinima.com. I'm Rob Talbert, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new psychological thriller from Remedy Entertainment, Alan Wake for the Xbox 360. Does the game live up to the 5-year hype? Time to find out. You play as the titular character Alan Wake, a hugely successful writer who hasn't penned a new novel in over 2 years. Alan and his wife Alice arrive in the town of Bright Falls for a much-needed vacation. After the pair get into an argument, Alice falls into a lake and Alan dives in after her. He awakens a week later inside of a wrecked car with no memory of what has happened. Bright Falls and its townfolk are now infected and taken over by a strange dark presence. Alan soon discovers that his only defense to this dark presence is light, and has to utilize whatever light source he can find to combat the presence and the Taken. I can't go into much more of the story without revealing some really big spoilers, but let me tell you that Alan's journey is a very big trip down the rabbit hole, and the longer you play, the more frightening and surreal the story becomes. Alan Wake isn't your typical survival horror game. As befitting the genre, Alan Wake offers up plenty of scares, but the gameplay itself isn't the driving force that kept me wanting more. In fact, what kept me going was unraveling the plot and finding out exactly what the hell is going on in Bright Falls. The gameplay itself is simple enough. It's classic third person. You don't have any sort of aiming reticle. You're armed with flashlights, shotguns, rifles, flare guns, and flash grenades. All of the enemies are protected by a dark shield that must be broken by using the items that emit light. Once the shield is gone, you can dispatch them with your regular weapons. While each enemy encounter will likely scare the hell out of you, after a few hours they all start feeling the same. But none of the repetitions stop me wanting to find out more about the story. It's one of the first times in a game that I actually looked beyond and slightly forgave the gameplay's shortcomings in pursuit of discovering what happens. And speaking of story, Alan Wake is presented as a TV show in its first season, with each of the levels you play through acting as episodes in the season. And every time you complete a level, the game provides a recap of what happened before. It's a great new way of propelling you through the story and provides a unique way to extend the story into future titles and downloadable content. This game is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting effects are amongst the best I've ever seen in any video game. The brilliant play on light and dark will have you wondering what the game could possibly offer up next. It's breathtaking and frightening all at the same time. The scope of the game is enormous, and it's definitely apparent that Bright Falls was originally designed to be an open-world experience. I'm glad to see the guys at Remedy didn't scrap all the environments and areas that they created when they decided to move the game to a more linear-based experience. Unfortunately, the in-game cinematics could use a little work, since when characters are delivering dialogue, the lip-syncing is not at all accurate. It's really jarring, and I expected this to be much more dialed in, as the storytelling is the game's biggest selling point.
Story now, and I'll make you suffer. You're a joke. There would be a single readable sentence in your books if it wasn't for your editor. You'll never publish another one of your shitty stories, 'cause I'm gonna kill you.
Alan Wake's sound is just flat-out creepy. The lines of dialogue that the Taken will bellow at you about mundane tasks they performed in a past life will send a shiver down your spine. The soundtrack is absolutely phenomenal and really adds to the overall mood of complete creepiness. You know, Alan Wake is fascinating in that it does a lot of things right. It provides a moody, creepy atmosphere for you to dive into and a story that will leave you wanting more. But unfortunately, it makes a few missteps with repetitive gameplay and some shoddy cinematic work that sometimes pulls you out of the story. You know, I loved playing through Alan Wake, trying to find out what was going on in the town of Bright Falls, but I felt a little gypped when I reached the end and many of the questions that the game posed were left unresolved. I forgave repetitive gameplay to be left on a cliffhanger? That's a tough pill to swallow. But overall, Alan Wake is a lot of fun to play, and I will be eagerly awaiting the inevitable DLC and sequel that's sure to take you further into the dark and horrifying world of Alan Wake. For more reviews, head over to blog.machinima.com.
You're a writer, aren't you? Yeah. So, right?